everyone, welcome to a Random Talk Sunday, and today for this video I thought it would be interesting, since we are discussing the holiday season, in particular the Christmas season as well. I thought it would be interesting to address how other countries celebrate Christmas, in particular the ones in Europe, because those were the ones that I happened to find traditions that were rather different compared to various other countries. So I thought I would sort of briefly address this and kind of go over maybe more of the general differences, and then discuss some countries in particular that I found to be interesting and have actually stuff that sort of resembles something I think unique that usually other countries don't associate with when it comes to this time of year or this sort of holiday season, in particular Christmas, but also other things as well. And I'll sort of address this as I go. But basically, the general differences that I found between Europe and the United States, and this doesn't go for every European country, but it seems like a good amount of European countries tend to have a Santa Claus or St. Nicholas Day, where he comes and delivers presents. This is usually done on the 6th, as opposed to the American Santa Claus that comes on the 25th, or comes really on the 24th, and then the 25th the presents are there. So, for the most part, that's usually when Santa comes, in Europe. And usually they're delivered in shoes, the presents, sometimes stockings, but usually that's how St. Nicholas is treated. Different countries, actually, of where Santa Claus is, and it's not like in the United States where it's the North Pole. Usually it's, I think for some it's like Greenland. Some of them it's for like the Black Forest, like in particular Germany. So they have like different locations and sort of different understandings, but the idea sort of is the same, that, you know, if you're good, you get rewarded. If you're bad, then you get punished. But that's really the general sense of understanding St. Nicholas, and I think largely the 6th was attributed to St. Nicholas because St. Nicholas supposedly passed away on the 6th. So that's sort of the idea, and I think the sort of understanding that European countries came to, at least a lot of them came to, when it came to St. Nicholas. So that's why they attribute December 6th to him, as opposed to the United States, who attributes it to literally the day of Christmas. Also, there's another thing that's fairly common in European cultures, and that's Advent. I don't think the United States really knows a lot about Advent and how it works, but basically, excuse me, having some issues today with my throat and coughing. But basically, Advent happens the 4 Sundays before Christmas. And on every Sunday, you would sort of light a candle or do something to reflect that, oh, this is the first of the 4 Sundays before Christmas. And that's usually how they sort of schedule it out. Also, in Europe, it's fairly common to have Advent calendars that either go through the 4 Sundays, or usually when it's usually an Advent calendar, it goes from the first day of December all the way to the 24th. So, and sometimes Advent calendars come in cards, so you'll send a card to somebody and they can open the cards, open certain flaps that are part of the card, and there'll be like a picture inside, and you'll open one each day before up to Christmas, from the 1st of December all the way up to the 24th technically. And usually the 24th has like a bigger um, a bigger window sort of that you open, because they're like windows where you basically open the window up and there's like a little picture of something inside. Sometimes there's chocolate too. You can get like big ones that have like little bits of chocolate in them that you open each day before Christmas. So that's kind of how, generally speaking, how Europe really celebrates Christmas. I'm not saying all European countries do this, but this is a common pattern that I've seen throughout a lot of the European countries. They will kind of use these traditions and sort of incorporate them. And they're rather important, I think, to a lot of the cultures. So that's kind of how it works. And sort of to give you an understanding of how the Advent calendar works, basically it's like a big thing. Sometimes it's a picture, and then you open it up and there's like a little picture inside, or chocolate, depending on how big of a calendar you get, and whether or not it's like in the form of a card or in the form of a big sort of picture. And yeah, usually that's how it works. With Advent, there's the one where it revolves around the 4 Sundays before Christmas, which is usually lit with candles. And then you have Advent calendars that go from the 1st of December all the way up to the 24th. So that's really, generally speaking, how Europe celebrates this time of year. There's a lot of build-up to the holiday, I think. In the United States, I think the holiday's a little bit more general, with just decorations and things like that. In Europe, usually, although there are decorations, it's not really a custom that people really lavish their houses with lights and things like that. That's more of an American tradition. But generally speaking, they'll put up various decorations everywhere, and they'll have markets. That's another very popular thing in Europe, but I don't think it's as popular here, that we have like markets that specifically open up around Christmas time. Stores have sales, but not really markets where you can buy food and things like that. But that's basically generally speaking. Now let's get into some more specific countries that I found to be interesting and I thought would be cool to share. Now, in Switzerland, I'm going to start with that because that's the one I'm more familiar with, actually, since part of my family is from there. So, some places celebrate or have parades, sort of, where they'll dress up in like masks and things like that. And then they'll go to people's houses and, just kind of really strange sort of things. And they'll have sort of like either parades, sometimes they'll give out candy and things like that. Fasnacht, which actually occurs relatively after the whole Christmas and New Year's sort of spectacle when we're introducing spring, that's something that's a little bit more widespread through Switzerland. And that involves parades and masks and things like that. But I think those kinds of traditions are sort of similar in respects to sort of Fasnacht and where people got these kinds of ideas. So that's something that is sort of part of certain areas of Switzerland that celebrate this kind of or have this kind of tradition. And usually the parades go on kind of during that time of year, during Christmas time, either before or after, sort of. They sort of revolve around being just around this time of year. So they don't specifically address Christmas, but they sort of celebrate the time of year too. Also, they do hold the sort of similar tradition of St. Nicholas, like I've mentioned, that's a little bit more general. But on Christmas Day, or the day before Christmas, it's an angel that comes to put down the Christmas presents. With other European countries, I think it's different things. But specifically for Switzerland, I know it's supposed to be like an angel, like an angel sort of sent down from the heavens, so to speak, and that angel gives out the presents for Christmas. So that's really really the basics sort of to the sort of Swiss tradition, and how they sort of celebrate. Another interesting tradition that I happened to find was one in Italy. And this happens during Epiphany, which is basically the 12 days after Christmas. And basically, this old lady comes, and her name is Befana, and she puts presents in stockings. So she's basically the stocking giver for Italy. But she comes like way after Christmas, during the Epiphany. Epiphany is supposed to be, I think, the time when the three kings came. That's how they celebrate. Usually in Europe, they celebrate this kind of time period too. I don't think in the United States it's all that common that they celebrate this Epiphany. But that's really where it comes from. It comes from when the three kings came, and they sort of celebrate traditions too with the three kings. Like with Switzerland, it's the three kings bread, where you will eat the bread, and then within one of the rolls there's a little king, and the person who gets the king gets a little crown, and it's all a little fun and cute. That's basically how it sort of works in Italy, and this is something that's rather unique. Like I don't think there's really, from my research, I didn't see any other old lady that comes. So it comes at around this time. So that's really something interesting. That's that kind of stands out in regards to Christmas and the holiday season in Europe. In Greece, I found another interesting thing. In Greece, to keep and I want to pronounce this correctly, Kilaritsario, which are bad spirits, away, and they're supposed to be all the way up to after Christmas, all the way up to Epiphany is when they are supposed to be around, supposedly. And in order to get these bad spirits to not come, because apparently they come down chimneys and things like that, they keep, in Greece, they try to keep the chimneys with fire, and so that the bad spirits sort of stay away. That's really how that works in Greece, which I found to be interesting because usually you associate bad spirits and things like that more for Halloween, and I thought it was interesting how this one incorporates something that's supposed to be something bad and put it inside a sort of this holiday time of year. So yeah, it's kind of odd. It's a little strange. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it's just something that they apparently consider during this time of year. Now, the last country that I wanted to address that I thought was rather interesting was the traditions in Russia. Now, Russia actually doesn't really consider Christmas all that important, surprisingly. They do celebrate it sort of similarly to how other European nations celebrate, but what's more popular for them is actually New Year's. And on New Year's, Father Frost, aka Dead Moroz, is supposed to come with his granddaughter. And they come on Christmas Eve. And the children basically call for him by sort of holding hands around the Christmas tree and singing. Or, well, they kind of just call him and, hold hands around a Christmas tree, so to speak. And that's when he comes. And supposedly when he comes, the Christmas tree lights turn on. And then that indicates, oh, they're here. And I don't remember in my research it mentioning whether or not he gives presents or anything like that, but he's supposed to come around Christmas Eve. So again, something that's really not all that common and is kind of out of the ordinary, and something you don't really hear too much about this time of year. Another thing that I wanted to mention about Russia in particular is the babushka. So usually people know it by the toy, like the toy that has like multiple layers of sort of a woman. You can like look up certain things online and it'll show you basically what it looks like, but it's pretty much all these different layers, and they're all supposed to be kind of made out of wood, and you open them up and there's another woman inside who's supposedly a little smaller, and then you open it up further and there's another one, all the way up to a little teeny one. So that's kind of how the toy works. It's supposed to be like a break apart and then put all back together kind of toy. But there's a whole story behind this babushka doll. And this babushka doll happens to be a Christmas story. And apparently babushka was an old lady, or an older woman, who is visited by the three kings. And we're talking the three kings that go and see Jesus. And they tell her about the new king, supposed to be Jesus. And they say, hey, you should come with us. And then the day that they leave, she decides, oh no, I'm not going to go. Because it's also emphasized in the story that she's very busy all the time, like cleaning and all that stuff. And she was looking through her toys, and she said, oh, the toys are too dirty. I have to clean them. And so she basically ends up sort of leaving late. And then she's searching all around, and then when she finally gets there to where Bethlehem is, Jesus already left for Egypt. So it's sort of said that she sort of wanders around still looking for Jesus. That's really the entire story in its entirety. And that's really how it sort of ties in with Christmas. It doesn't really emphasize what toy, because again, she wanted to give him a toy. But it doesn't, I don't know if it was the babushka doll. I'm assuming it is, but I could be wrong. But that's really where that tradition and that story kind of comes from. So yeah, that's kind of the interesting things that I found in regards to sort of the holiday season within Europe. I tried researching other countries, but I didn't really find anything that really stood out to me. It seems like a lot of the similarities, I think, are incorporated more either into the Christmas or into the European tradition. I think that's because once Europeans settled into the United States and in other countries, their sort of culture came with that, and that was really incorporated into the other cultures. So it's hard to say whether or not certain ones stand out. I'm sure there's others that do. It's just my research didn't indicate that. But yeah, I think that's really all I can say about this topic in particular. I find it to be really interesting to learn about all these different cultures and these different beliefs. And it's interesting to hear about all these different kinds of stories and the different ways that people celebrate the holiday season, especially this time of year. I'm going to be emphasizing a little bit more of Hanukkah next week, since Hanukkah starts actually next week. So I'll try to talk about Hanukkah a little bit more and try to get off the Christmas bandwagon, because I know that Christmas is hugely emphasized, and there's other holidays that could be looked into, and I really do want to emphasize certain aspects of those too. But yeah, I think that's really all I can say. If there are any questions, comments, concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer them. I'd be more than happy to hear what you do as a tradition for the holiday season, because I'm sure everybody's got their own little special thing that they do. But yeah, I think that's really all I can say. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a pleasant day, week, month, and year. Bye-bye.